Hello and welcome back to Hayjive Picks. I'm your host, founder, editor, and producer, Hayden Iverson. In this video, we're really going over the UFC Vegas 59 card, Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill in the headliner. But before we do that, let's recap the past week because I've been gone out of town for the past week. So starting with the first week of Dana White Contender Series on Tuesday, our only play in that was Ozzy Diaz on the money line, and he got knocked out with a left hook, really clean left hook, to the only contract winner that night, Joe Pyfer. And then moving on, going into UFC 277, we had a pretty decent day. We went 10-3 on our picks. If you looked, or if you followed me on TikTok, I switched one of my picks, which ended up hurting me quite a bit. I had Hamdi Abdelwahab beating Dontel Mays, but I switched it in the last minute because I just figured the competition that Abdelwahab had gone up against up to that point was not very good, and I guess Dontel Mays is not very good either. What does he really do that well? Not much. But nonetheless, we went 10-3. If I hadn't switched that, it would have been 11-2. The only ones that we got wrong were Jeon Kim. She lost. Dontel Mays, he lost. And then Matthew Semmelsberger. The rest we got correct. And at a betting perspective, we went up 5.5 units on the day. Had Dontel Mays pulled it off, we would have been up about 12 units. I had him in a parlay with Jakar Close that I had 2 units on. And then I had a 6-legger with Brandon Moreno, Sergey Pavlovich, Pantoja, Mays, Close, and Kosi that I had half a unit on that would have paid out over 5 units. So that would have been a nice one. But you win some, you lose some. But on the day, we went up 5.5 units, so I will take that. Our biggest play on the card was over 2.5 rounds in the Nunes versus Pena, the main event, which was crazy main event. Julianna Pena is just an absolute savage. Same with Amanda Nunes. Like, the amount of damage she took and just kept coming forward, that was impressive. But she did get her ass beat, I will say that. And then we had a nice win with Pantoja by sub at plus 450. We made one live bet on Drew Dober after the first round at minus 135. I think he closed around minus 190 there, so we got a little bit better value. And then we also added under 2.5 rounds for the Pantoja-Perez fight about 20 or 30 minutes before that. So that one hit as well with Pantoja getting the sub in the first round. But we are going to move on from that. Hopefully we can continue with our profiting. And we did in last night's fights, the Dana White Contender Series Week 2, which was quite the banger. Probably one of the best Dana White Contender Series cards of all time. And we had a play on Francis, forgetting his name. Dana White Contender Series. The Francis guy, and then we had the Vinicius by KO, which hit. He was the underdog, and his KO was at plus 350. Cashed that. So feeling good about that. Profited off 277, profited off of last night's Contender Series, and hopefully we can profit off UFC Vegas 59, which we will get into right now. Starting with the main event, Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. Santos, 38 years old, former title challenger, 1-4 in his last 5. Quite on the decline after his title fight with John Jones, where he hurt his knee quite badly. Tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, and meniscus in his left knee. So pretty much everything. Since then, he's looked slow, but, you know, he's still got the power, fight-ending power for sure. Very big dude. His only win coming over Johnny Walker, which was quite a boring fight. It seems like he's kind of being in more boring fights now. His last one against Mohammad and Kalaev was a 5-rounder. Same with Johnny Walker, and that was just a snooze fest. So maybe this one could be that way, but I doubt it, because Jamal Hill is not really a boring fighter at all. Very, very fast hands. 31 years old. His only loss is to Paul Craig. Paul Craig is going to be known for just wiping out these perfect records. Just, if you go back and watch that fight, it was a disgusting arm break, which was a KO, but really just submitted him by breaking his arm and then kept punching him out. So it goes down as a KO, but the sub happened, which just broke his arm, and he couldn't fight. But he's very aggressive. He loves to dig the body shots early, especially on, and then go up top later. But he's got a very wide stance as well, and he kind of will lunge in there a little bit, so he's kind of prone to getting leg kicked. Thiago Santos, not necessarily known for the leg kicks, but could be something that you could keep an eye on. Jamal Hill, 6 KOs, 1. He's been knocked out once with Paul Craig, 0 subs. Thiago Santos, 15 KOs, 1 sub. Hill sitting at minus 300. Santos plus 240. Santos kind of been on his downslope in his career. Jamal Hill, a rising contender, so I'm going to go with Jamal Hill. I'm pretty high on him this week. I have him in 2 parlays, one with Vicente Luque, who we'll talk about next, and one with Sergey Spivak. I think he gets it done fairly easily. I could see him getting an early KO, but I could also see this fight kind of being boring for the first round or two, maybe, just kind of feeling each other out. Thiago Santos is a pretty intimidating guy, but give me Jamal Hill nonetheless. Moving on to Vicente Luque, 30 years old, versus Jeff Neal, 31 years old. Luque coming off the loss to Belal Muhammad in the main event. Kind of a disappointing loss for him. He was a favorite in that fight. But before that, he was on a 4-fight win streak over Michael Chiesa, Tyron Woodley, Randy Brown, and Nico Price. So some pretty solid competition there. Very talented, great striker, great grappler. 2 Darce chokes over Michael Chiesa and Tyron Woodley. And then 2 knockouts over Randy Brown and Nico Price. Was his wrestling exposed last fight against Belal Muhammad? Possibly. But Belal had a great night that night. I don't think I would look too much into that. Luque sitting at minus 190 right now. He's got 11 KOs, 8 subs. As for Jeff Neal, he's 3-2 in his last 5. He had a split decision win over Santiago Ponzinibbio in his last time out. I did think he won that fight, but Santiago put up a great fight. It was close, but I would give the edge to Jeff Neal. As before that, he lost to Neil Magny and then a loss to Stephen Thompson. He's a boxer. He really looks to stay in more of an upright stance, kind of keep a little higher guard, and then work his boxing. So I do expect this fight to stay on the feet unless Luque decides to take it to the ground. I don't see Jeff Neal really going for anything like that. Luque he definitely has the advantage on the ground, so maybe he goes that way. As for Jeff Neal, 8 KOs and 2 subs. Neal sitting at plus 160. I've been high on Vicente Luque for a while. The disappointing performance from last time out against Mohammad didn't really make me change my mind. I do think it was just a really good night for Mohammad, and he wanted that revenge against Vicente Luque, having them fought one time before that. So give me Vicente Luque. I'm also pretty high on him this week against Jeff Neal. I have him, like I said, with Vicente Luque in a parlay, and then I have him just a straight-up money line play that I got it was probably 2 weeks ago at minus 150. I think that's about what it opened at. But give me Vicente Luque. Moving on, we got the two Ultimate Fighter tournament championships. So we got second up technically in the heavyweight division, Mohammad Uzman versus Zack Poga. Uzman, 33 years old. Zack Poga, 34 years old. And both of these guys are ex-football players. Mohammad Uzman played in college at Arizona back in 2011. And Poga did a little stint in the NFL, never really got too big of opportunities, but he also played at Colorado. Poga trains at Elevation Fight Team with Curtis Blades and Alistair Overeem, so he's getting some good training in. And I guess so would Mohammad Uzman, training at Fortis MMA, and his brother, Kamaru Uzman, being the welterweight champion and the number one pound for pound fighter in the UFC. So both these guys are going to be getting some great coaching, some great experience with high-level athletes. As for Poga, he's undefeated as a pro and an amateur. He's fought in LFA and Cage Warriors, so two very good associations. He's got 1 KO, no subs. So I guess a decision fighter, but no, he's got some power to him. As for Uzman, I'd say he fought the better opponents in the Ultimate Fighter, but he had the split decision win in the semifinals over Eduardo Perez, which was a very close fight. Could have gone either way, but I would say Uzman won it. 3 KOs for him, 2 subs. Uzman sitting at plus 200 and Poga at minus 240. Give me Zack Poga. I'm just gonna go with him. I think he's a better striker, a little more crisp. Uzman may look to wrestle. He's just not as refined as a striker as Poga. I'm going to go with Poga for that reason. The next Ultimate Fighter championship fight coming in the women's flyweight division, Julianna Miller versus Brogan Walker. Julianna Miller, a little bit of a surprise, I would say. Nicknamed Juju from Team Pena, as are Zack Poga and Mohammad Uzman. The only fighter from Team Nunes is Brogan Walker in this on this card. So Julianna Miller, very, very scrappy player, very good jiu-jitsu, lots of grappling experience. She only has 3 pro fights, but she does have many grappling matches, I guess you would call them, grappling matches, as you can see on Tapology. So very, very experienced grappler. And if she gets it to the ground, I think she's going to have a very good chance of getting Brogan Walker out of there. But on the feet, she does not wear damage very well. Kind of tough to tell based off the Ultimate Fighter because they fight, so frequently. So her first fight, she got into a bit of a brawl, and then second fight, she still had a lot of that damage built up. So she doesn't wear it the best. we'll see how she looks coming off a little bit of a layoff and might be a little bit more fresh. So as for Brogan Walker, she suffered a bit of an injury on the show, a knee injury, but she made it to the finals. She has a really good stand-up. She got a win over Miranda Maverick and a loss over Erin Blanchfield, so she's fought some really good competition. If Walker's sitting at plus 100 right now, Julianna Miller minus 120. So pretty much a pick'em fight. I want to go with Brogan Walker, but I feel like if this fight hits the ground, it might not go well for her. But I'll bet against her. I bet against Julianna Miller. I'll take Brogan Walker. Just a little bit more experienced right now. I think maybe in a few years, Julianna Miller could be something solid. But she's got to improve her stand up and get that striking a little bit cleaned up. Moving on, going to the heavyweight fight, Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. Augusto Sakai, 31 years old. He's on a little bit of a losing streak right now. 3 straight KO losses to Taito Ivasa, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and then Alistair Overeem. His takedown defense is pretty questionable. Kind of leaves himself open. So going against a wrestler in Sergey Spivak, that's not a good look for him. He's going to have to clean that up for this one. Spivak's got really good entries and really good throws as well. He's been improving a lot. It's only 27 years old. So I'm pretty big on Spivak this week. He's fighting out of Moldova, the Moldovan boy. He's had a pretty decent run in the UFC, win over Taito Ivasa back in 2019. Lost to Marcin Tabura, and then 3 straight wins over Carlos Felipe, Jared Vandera, and Alexei Oleinik. Not the greatest competition, but still got it done. And then a loss to Tom Aspinall in a short notice fight, and then a win over Greg Hardy in his last one. So, not insanely great competition, but, he's going to fight these lower level guys, and he's going to win pretty easily. So I don't see Augusto Sakai being at the top of the heavyweights, so I'm going to take Sergey Spivak. I could see him getting the sub here as well. He's sitting at minus 260. Augusto Sakai at plus 210. I think Spivak gets it done within the distance. I'll be looking at that line if it comes out soon enough. It's not out right now, but maybe sub, or I could see him getting some ground and pound. But inside the distance, I think is a pretty good bet, since Sakai has been finished 3 straight times as well. So I will be looking into that. If I do end up playing that, I will be giving out an updated list of all my plays on my TikTok, just like I did last week, so you guys know what I'm playing. Moving on, though, Ariana Lipsky and Priscilla Cashueda, the Zombie Girl. Both of these fighters are 3-4 in the UFC. Kind of not disappointing, but a little bit for Ariana Lipsky. Kind of comes in with a little bit of, not hype, but just more expectations. Former KSW champ, training out of King's MMA. She's pretty crisp on the feet, striking-wise. Early in the fight, and then kind of as the fight goes on, she gets a little bit more loopy. So I would look at that maybe as a live betting opportunity if it goes into rounds 2 or 3, and maybe Lipsky takes the first round. Cashueda has never been knocked out. They call her the Zombie Girl for a reason. Maybe that could be a play. Maybe you got to feel that out, but Lipsky's at -170 right now. Cashueda, the underdog, at +145. As for Cashueda, she gets controlled on the ground. She's going to have a big disadvantage on the ground in this fight. She also holds her hands low and basically just takes every punch that comes her way. So that's not a good look for her. She's 33 years old, Lipsky 28. Lipsky's got 6 KOs and 3 subs, and then Cashueda 6 KOs, and she's been subbed twice. Honestly, I would say Cashueda's wins in the UFC have been somewhat lucky. But, you know, her last fight against Jeon Kim, she gets outstruck by a lot. Still gets the win because, I guess, more damage on the shots. Been choked out by Jillian Robertson and Valentina Shevchenko, but you can't really be too mad about that. And then losses to Molly McCann and Luana Carolina. This one feels like a dog or pass, but I will not be betting on this fight unless I see something live. But for the sake of the channel, I'm going to take Ariana Lipsky. But at -170, I would not touch it. But if she gets a takedown, gets this on the ground, I could see a finish out of her. Maybe I'd look at the sub line when it comes out, because that is a real opportunity for her. But give me Ariana Lipsky. Next fight, Michael Oleksiejczuk versus the smiling Sam Alvey. Oleksiejczuk, he's got pretty good movement on the outside. Looks to get in and out. He's got pretty heavy hands, 11 KOs and 1 sub on his record. He's only 27 years old. He's improving every time. This fight is scheduled to be at middleweight. Both of these fighters, I think the last time they fought was at light heavyweight. As for Sam Alvey, 0-7-1 in his last 8. So it might be time to put up or get out, I guess, of the UFC. I don't see how they can keep him around much longer if he goes 0-8-1. But he's gonna be smiling out there, that's for sure. But he's pretty durable. He's got 51 pro fights, and he's only been knocked out 3 times. He's been subbed 3 times as well. So out of 51 fights, he's only been finished 6 times. That's pretty impressive. Maybe that's the reason he's in there. He's going to go in there and brawl a little bit. He's got 19 KOs. So he does have some power in him. He's sitting at plus 450. Oleksiejczuk's -625. Alvey, 36 years old. I don't see how anyone could be confident in betting Sam Alvey at this point. But also at -625 for Oleksiejczuk, I don't see how that's playable. As for a betting perspective, I wouldn't touch it. I honestly don't even know if I would add Oleksiejczuk to like parlays. I do, Alvey's pretty durable. The only way you're gonna get value is getting a finish by Oleksiejczuk, and at this point, it's like you can't really trust him to get a finish against Sam Alvey, who's only been finished 6 times in 51 pro fights. So, but give me Oleksiejczuk for the sake of the channel. I probably won't be touching this one. Just too low level and too many question marks. Next fight, 27-year-old Terrence McKinney. Big favorite in this one, -900 over the 30-year-old Eric Gonzalez at +600. McKinney, super good athlete, comes out super fast. He's got 14 of his 16 fights end in round 1. So he's going to come out the fight, and he definitely did that in his last one against Drew Dober. That first round was insane. It only lasted 3 minutes and 17 seconds, but nearly had Drew Dober knocked out, which literally never happens. He's got the granite chin on him. but almost pulled it off. But then just kind of gassed out. He took that one on short notice as well. And he was a plus 130 underdog. But he did open as a bigger underdog. But a lot of money came in on him because he was on such a run. Had won 5 in a row. Had just choked out Faraziem literally a month, not even a month earlier. I think it was like 3 weeks. And then he had that 7-second knockout over Matt Frivola in his debut in the UFC. So a lot of hype around Terrence McKinney, a lot of promise. It's going to be fought at lightweight. He's got 5 KOs on his record, 7 subs. As for Gonzalez, he lost in his debut against Jim Miller. He got the old Jim Miller treatment, and he gets caught with the overhand left. But he was a pretty big underdog in that one, plus 225. I don't see a great future for Eric Gonzalez at this point. Not really sure what he does too well. He's pretty well-rounded, but it's nothing that he really does too well. He does have 8 KOs and 1 sub, but he could knock out Terrence McKinney. McKinney could gas out, and Gonzalez could finish him there. So honestly, at minus 900, it's like you can't really play that. I'm gonna take Terrence McKinney for the sake of the channel, but at minus 900, I wouldn't touch it, and I would assume his finish props are gonna be not that far off of that because he has so many finishes. But I don't know. Maybe there could be some value on Gonzalez late in the fight if Terrence McKinney gasses out. But since he's had a good amount of time to prep for this fight, I don't think he will. But something to look out for. But give me Terrence McKinney for the sake of the channel. Moving on, Takashi Sato versus Brian Battle, the TUF 29 winner at middleweight. So for Brian Battle, pretty decent stand-up, but he's got 5 submission wins. He doesn't really look to, get takedowns and push the grappling too much. It kind of seems more opportunistic. If you watched his fights on TUF 29 and then the championship fight in his UFC debut, 2 of them came by submission win, and then his last time out, a win over Tresean Gore, who was supposed to fight for the title but had an injury, I believe, and then Gilbert Urbina stepped in. Brian Battle won both of those fights. As for Takashi Sato, 2-3 in the UFC. Hasn't been the greatest showing. He had a tough opponent in his last time out against Gunnar Nelson, the return of Gunnar Nelson, in which he got controlled pretty much the entire fight. Didn't get subbed, but got controlled. And lost 30-26 on all of the judges' scorecards. He's got a very, very quick left hand. He's knocked out 2 people in the UFC. Jason Witt, we will talk about him later. Pretty glass chin. And then Ben Saunders, who was very, very old at that point. So pretty much on his way out. But nonetheless, he's got pretty good striking and just a very, very fast left hand. That's how he knocked out both of those guys with the kind of the feint with the right and then just a straight left down the pipe. Catches him on the chin, and they're gone. But 11 KOs for him, 2 subs. Sato sitting at plus 210, and Brian Battle minus 260. I feel like this is a little bit wide. Yes, Brian Battle is 7-1, but he's only fought fighters from The Ultimate Fighter in his UFC fights. I don't see how he's a minus 260 favorite. I do think he wins, but I don't think he's worth minus 260 at all. Maybe there's some value on Takashi Sato by KO, but I will have to wait and see what that is. Maybe I'll put a little sprinkle on it because it is a possibility. Next fight, Jason Witt, our friend Jason Witt, 35 years old versus 29-year-old Josh Quinlan. Jason Witt sitting at plus 190, Quinlan minus 230. For Jason Witt, 2-3 in the UFC. Kind of a glass chin on him. Loss in round 1 by KO to Takashi Sato. Loss in round 1, 16 seconds in against Matthew Semmelsberger. And then a loss to Phil Rowe in round 2 by KO. And then his fight with Brian Barberena got knocked down multiple times. So he's kind of got like slow reflexes, and he kind of just needs to wrestle and not stand, because if he gets clipped, he goes down. He's been knocked out 6 times. He's only has 3 KOs, but does have 8 subs, so he's decent on the ground. He's no scrub, but just kind of struggling to take punches. As for Josh Quinlan, I fought on Dana White Contender Series, had a no contest, but all of his previous opponents, he's 5-0 in his pro career, but his previous opponents have a record of 1-6. So he hasn't fought the best competition. He loves to throw a right leg kick. He threw it multiple times in the few fights that I watched. He's got a really high guard too. Kind of, keeps his hands up here. Will throw the kicks. He's got 3 KOs and 2 subs, so finishes all of his fights. I do not see this one going the distance, considering Jason Witt's chin, and maybe he could get a sub here. I probably won't be betting on it. Maybe if there's a decent enough number on Josh Quinlan by KO, but he's minus 230 right now, and I don't see the KO prop being that juicy that I would want to invest into it. But for the sake of this channel, give me Josh Quinlan. Moving on, women's strawweight. Cori McKenna, 23 years old versus 30-year-old Miranda Granger. McKenna's sitting at minus 230 right now. And her last fight was just very frustrating to watch. She was minus 290 favorite over Elise Reed. And pretty much everyone knew, she needs to get her on the ground. Elise Reed, mainly just a striker. So if you get her on the ground, she's going to be not in her element, and you're getting pieced up in the stand-up, so get her on the ground. But she decides to, stand with her, and she just needs to grapple. She needed to grapple that fight. She's trading out of Team Alpha Male, so I would expect her to come out wrestling, and she didn't. And hopefully that changes this week for her. She's got a decent stand-up, though. She's not like a fish out of water. It's just that she was getting pieced up on the feet in that fight, and she needed to take it to the ground because she had the advantage there. As for Miranda Granger, she's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 10-inch reach advantage. So she's very long for the division. Her last fight was November of 2020, so very close to having 2 years off. That was against Ashley Yoder. She lost unanimous decision, and then she lost to Amanda Lamoche by rear naked choke, and then her only win in the UFC was against Hannah Goldie. She struggles with her takedown defense. Amanda Lamoche took her down pretty easily, same with Ashley Yoder. But she is very active off her back. Maybe that's why she's okay with going on the ground. She kind of looks, she's got the long legs, long arms. She looks for submissions from the bottom, but she kind of gets content to be there. At some point, you kind of got to fight to get out of that position. Otherwise, you're just giving up time. Time's running out the clock, and it's never a good look when you're on the bottom. You know, even if you are throwing up submissions, you don't really get rewarded for that unless you're putting them in really, really deep danger, and then causing scrambles and such out of it. But Granger plus 190 right now. McKenna minus 230. I feel like this line is also a bit off. I guess just some unknowns with Miranda Granger and where she's at right now, having the almost 2 years off. And then Cori McKenna, she's only 23 years old. She's got to be getting better. But that reach advantage is hard to overlook. And if McKenna pushes the wrestling, you know, Granger could catch her on the ground. She's got good subs off her back. She got 5 subs, 1 KO. McKenna, 2 KOs and 1 sub. So McKenna's never been finished. I don't think I'll get there from a betting perspective to pick Miranda Granger. And I don't think I will pick against her either. I'm gonna take McKenna for the sake of this channel. I think if she stays safe on top, you know, she's never been finished. If she stays safe on top, she can get takedowns pretty easily. If she pushes it, will she push it? We don't know. That's why I wouldn't feel confident betting in it. I would take a look at the Granger by sub prop, see what that is at. If it's juicy enough, maybe you'll sprinkle a little bit on there. But for right now, I do not have anything on it. And I'll take Cori McKenna for the sake of the channel. Last fight, 30-year-old Maida Bueno Silva versus 33-year-old Stephanie Egger. For Bueno Silva, training out of Spivak, the same gym as Charles Oliveira. She's really good in the tie clinch, just like Charles Oliveira is. She likes to throw knees, elbows. I think that's probably one of her best spots. She's super aggressive, as most shoot-to-box fighters are. 1 KO, 5 subs, so she's definitely solid on the ground as well. As for Stephanie Egger, judo background, she's got pretty good defense in the scrambles. She was put in some weird positions in her fight against Shayna Young and Jessica Rose Clark, but ultimately survived them and got the finish in both of those. So she's a decent striker as well, pretty crisp. She's got a good reach on her. 3 KOs for her and 3 subs. So she's got a pretty well-rounded game. But I'm going to go with the very, very slight dog here in Maida Bueno Silva. I think her aggression might put Stephanie Egger in a little bit of uncomfortable positions. And I think just overall she's going to have a little bit of an edge on the feet. And then in the grappling, I think they're pretty similar. So give me Maida Bueno Silva in that one. I have a 1.5 unit play on her as well at plus 100. So very, very slight underdog, but give me Maida Bueno Silva. So if we look through the card top to bottom, I got Jamal Hill, Vicente Luque, Zack Poga, Brogan Walker, Sergey Spivak, Ariana Lipsky, Michael Olashechek, Terrence McKinney, Brian Battle, Josh Quinlan, Cori McKenna, and Maida Bueno Silva. As for my bets, I only have 4 bets out right now. I will be adding to it. I think there are some spots that I want to look into a little bit more. Some props, maybe look to get some more parlays in here. But I got Luque money line, Bueno Silva money line, and then parlay with Luque and Hill, and a parlay with Spivak and Hill. So not too invested yet, but I will be looking to figure out what the lines will be for props and stuff. So stay tuned for that. Look on my TikTok at Hayjive Picks. I usually put up a pick a day right now. Some MLB ones in there as well. Had the Dana White Contender Series picks, both of them on there last night. Both of those cashed. So be looking at that page, and we'll be giving out my full card picks there as well, and then all the bets that I have on the card as well. So you can tail those. You know, last night we profited off Dana White Contender Series, profited off of UFC 277, and then we lost at the UFC London. So let's keep the hot streak going. So we're 2 straight events that we're profiting off of. Let's make it 3. Should be a pretty solid card. I'm excited to see how Jamal Hill looks. He's always an exciting fighter. Same with Vicente Luque. And then you're going to get the 2 tough 30 champions crowned. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, a subscription, comment. Let me know if you like my picks or if you're picking anything different. I just appreciate any kind of support. But I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.